did you really think, because I'm sure a lot of people were like going, hey, he's a good director. He makes some cool shit. He makes a cool horror movie. He makes this. For a studio to give you a movie like Guardians of the Galaxy, to say, here is, it just doesn't, it seems unheard of that they would be, well, what was his last movie? Oh, it was Memento. Okay, let's give him, or it was something huge, something whatever. And it wasn't like you did something that was a fucking home run.
Right.
It was good. It was great, but it wasn't. So I know the story, but how hard did you have to push to really get something like that, to prove yourself, to prove your vision that is going to work?
I would say I pushed really hard, but also I didn't push hard at all. So it was a combination, because I was ready to quit directing,
Really?
100%. I was like, listen, I was seeing how the tide was turning. I was seeing that, they were stopping making, mid-budget films. And that I always liked creating things that were somewhat within the zeitgeist. And I was seeing that most of the movies that they were going to let me direct, the $30 million movies, were gone. And that everything was big Marvel movies, and they're never going to give me that. And yes, I would love to do a Hulk movie. That was like a big one at the time.
But you didn't think it was going to happen.
But I didn't think there was any way it was going to happen. Even though I'd met with Marvel a couple times about little things, I tried to get them to do Hit Monkey. I tried to get them to do something else. I didn't think that they were going to hire. They were going to hire me for some big movie, So I was like, I don't think it's going to happen. I'm going to focus. I see the future of television being really bright, which I was right about. And I just made a video game that did very well, and so I like doing that.
Was that Lollipop?
Lollipop Chainsaw.
I was in it.
Which you were in.
I was the head of Nick. I had no penis.
You were the male lead.
I love that. People still come up to me for autographs.
Yeah. So it's like I'm like, I'm going to focus on television and gaming. That's what I'm going to do. I'm done. And I told my agent, quit putting me out for movies because I'm going to focus on television and gaming. I just tried to get some movie that I couldn't get, which it seemed perfect for. And then Marvel called up and said, will he come in? We want to tell him about this thing we're doing. And I was like, God damn it. Because Marvel's far away. So at the time, now,
how far?
Now it's in Burbank, but at the time it was in Manhattan Beach.
Oh, that's an hour.
Dude, yeah.
That's a fucking
And this
hour.
was like, I was going to have to drive home in rush hour. So I was going to have to drive from Studio City into Manhattan Beach.
No.
So they could pitch me and they could check me off their list, and it's not really something that I'm going to want to do.
You think you're wasting 3 or 4 hours?
I think I'm wasting 4 hours of my day. Yeah. Right. But I'm like, okay, I drive down there. I remember stopping and getting a bite to eat because I was early and talking to my agent or my lawyer, Andrew Hurwitz, on the phone and being like, yeah, I'm going to go on this thing. It's silly, but and I go in there and then they pitch me Guardians. And that's really how it started. So it started like that. And then, I've told the story many times about how it came to me and all this, but what I did was I worked really hard. Like there's that speech that Peter Quill gives in the first Guardians of the Galaxy, where he says, this is about giving a shit. And that's what it was like for me for the first time, because I had attributed all of my success to really hard work and not giving a shit. Yeah. And I allowed myself to give a shit. I allowed myself to actually want to get this gig. And I sort of fell in love with the concept of doing the Guardians of the Galaxy. I fell in love with, I had always wanted to do a space opera. That was my biggest dream, to do a space opera in my own way. And I saw the opportunity here. And so I really worked hard. And I probably worked harder than anybody else in terms of, I wrote up this huge Bible on what the visuals were going to be.
Oh, like. I remember how
I wrote I did storyboarded the whole first sequence from the movie. And, did a lot of work on the characters, that, all this art, all these things.
It was harder to prep this and get this all. By the time you went on set, it was almost like probably a little bit of a relief.
Oh, well, yes. On the first Guardians, absolutely. Because
you were prepared.
I'm incredibly prepared, but also what I wasn't prepared for was on the other movies I had done, I was better at most of the department heads at their jobs than they were. I knew more about a lot of those jobs than they did because I couldn't hire the best and the brightest.
Right.
Now, there's obviously some great people I worked with.
But this was on a
throughout
different
the
level.
years. But suddenly I'm making a movie for over $100 million and I've got, just the greatest, department heads. And my AD was better than I was. My, my DP,
amazing.
my camera operator.
Has he been the AD on all three?
No. Lars started on 2.
On 2. I love
Lars, who is now a DC employee. Lars, who is now, running a lot of our production at DC.
Love him.
He was my AD.
That was the thing that when I walked on set, the crew, they were so amazing. And your DP, sorry for memory lapse. Henry
Bram, who shot Guardians 3, Suicide Squad, Guardians 2. He shot The Flash, which people are going to see is just one of the greatest movies ever